Ladies and gentlemen, stop what you're doing. This isn't just another date on the calendar. This isn't just another Sunday. July 24 is coming, and you cannot ignore this. July 24 represents more than just a number on a calendar. It symbolizes a moment of significance, a turning point that calls for attention, intention, and readiness. In our daily routines, dates often come and go without meaning. Birthdays, deadlines, appointments. So many days blur together in a fast-paced world that rarely stops to reflect. But every once in a while, a date becomes more than a marker of time. It becomes a threshold between what has been and what could be. July 24 is such a date. There is a stirring in the air, an urgency that sets this moment apart. It is as though life itself is pausing for a breath, giving us a chance to recalibrate. This date is not random, it is symbolic. It holds the potential to signify the moment when you choose to stop going in circles and start moving forward. A moment when the cycle of delay, doubt, and distraction is broken, and clarity steps in to replace confusion. This isn't about superstition or fear. It's about spiritual awareness. It's about the realization that sometimes life gives you a window, a divine appointment, and you either walk through it or let it pass you by. Turning points rarely come with loud announcements. They show up quietly, almost unnoticeably, in the form of inner urgency. July 24 may not change the world for everyone, but it can change your world if you treat it as more than ordinary. It's a wake-up call, a checkpoint, a chance to pivot from where you are to where you're meant to be. This is not about the date itself having magical power. It's about what you choose to do with what the moment offers. It's a moment to reflect, to recommit, and to realign your life with your higher calling. Think about how many times you've felt the need to start fresh. How many times you've said, "I'll begin on Monday," or "Next month will be different," or "When the timing feels right, I'll move forward." And yet those moments come and go, leaving you stuck in the same place, longing for something more. July 24 can be the day you stop postponing purpose. It can be the day you draw the line in the sand and say, "From this moment on, I will not settle." Every transformation starts with a decision. No one drifts into greatness. No one stumbles into purpose. It comes by recognizing moments that matter and responding to them with action. July 24 carries with it an invitation, an opportunity to mark this day as the beginning of something new. It could be the day you break the addiction, the day you finally forgive, the day you commit to the vision, the day you stop hiding who you are, not because something external forces you, but because something inside you awakens. When you look back on your life, you won't remember every date, but you will remember the ones that changed everything, the dates where you stopped playing small, the dates where you walked away from what was easy and stepped into what was right, the dates where you got up one more time after falling, the dates where you said yes to the whisper inside you. July 24 can become one of those days, not because the date holds power, but because you do. Your inner voice is not a random thought or fleeting feeling. It is the quiet, consistent whisper of your true self, the part of you that sees beyond the surface, that knows when you are off course, and that urges you toward growth. So many people live their lives drowning out that voice. They stay busy, distracted, entertained, or numb, hoping the discomfort will fade or that clarity will come from somewhere outside of them. But the truth is, the direction they are waiting for is already speaking from within. That gentle tug in your spirit, that restlessness you feel when things seem fine on the outside but unsettled on the inside, that is your inner voice calling for change. This voice is not loud or forceful. It doesn't demand your attention like the chaos of the world does. It won't compete with the noise of your schedule, your social media, or your fears. Instead, it waits patiently, speaking softly, yet persistently, reminding you that you were made for something more. It might come in the form of dissatisfaction with your current situation, a dream you can't let go of, or a conviction that keeps coming back no matter how many times you try to ignore it. You may not understand all the details, but you can feel the pull, the sense that staying where you are is no longer an option. Ignoring that voice leads to stagnation. You may look successful on the outside, but inside you know something is missing. You can accomplish goals and still feel empty. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. That's because true fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements. It comes from alignment. When your actions match your calling, when your decisions reflect your values, and when your steps are guided by that inner compass, that's when peace follows. The voice inside you is not trying to ruin your comfort. It's trying to rescue your potential. It's trying to wake you up from the autopilot life that keeps you stuck and call you into the intentional life that moves you forward. There comes a moment when you must stop ignoring the signals. The inner tension is not there to torment you, it's there to direct you. That tension exists because your current state is no longer compatible with your future purpose. The habits, relationships, environments, and even mindsets that once felt normal now feel limiting because you've outgrown them. And the longer you silence that inner voice, the louder the consequences become. Frustration grows, peace fades. You begin to question your worth and purpose not because you're lost, but because you're resisting the path that leads to your next level. Choosing to listen to your inner voice requires courage. It may ask you to step into uncertainty, to release the familiar, or to face fears you've avoided for years. But it also leads to growth, healing, and clarity. You won't always get detailed instructions, but you'll sense the next right step. That's how the inner voice works. It doesn't reveal everything at once, but it gives you enough light to move forward in faith. And with every step you take in obedience to that voice, you begin to find your rhythm, your strength, and your true direction. There is something inside you that knows when it's time to shift, time to stop settling, time to stop waiting for someone else to validate your calling. That knowing, that stirring, is not your imagination. It is a signal, a message from your Creator, your conscience, your core identity. It says, you're not finished, you're not stuck, you're being prepared for something greater, and to step into it, you must first choose to listen. Because the voice you've been ignoring is the voice that holds the key to the life you've been longing for. Comfort and delay are two of the most subtle and deceptive enemies of progress. They don't look threatening. In fact, they often disguise themselves as wisdom, patience, or just waiting for the right time. But beneath the surface, they quietly rob people of purpose, passion, and potential. The truth is, staying in your comfort zone may feel safe, but it comes at the cost of your calling. Growth never happens in the place of ease. Comfort keeps you where you are, while purpose demands that you stretch, move, risk, and act, even when you're unsure. And delay, though often justified as being careful or strategic, is usually fear wearing a mask. It's the voice that says not yet, maybe later, or when things settle down, but all it really does is keep you circling the same mountain over and over again. There comes a time in everyone's life when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of changing. That moment is a gift. It's a wake-up call. It's when you finally realize that you can't keep waiting for the perfect conditions because they'll never come. The stars won't align, the timing won't feel ideal, and you'll never feel fully ready. And yet, if you don't move, if you don't decide, if you don't act, you'll stay stuck. Life will pass, doors will close, and the thing you were created to do will remain just an idea, a dream, a distant possibility. Comfort convinces you that maintaining the status quo is good enough, but deep down you know it's not. You weren't born to simply exist. You were born to become, and becoming anything significant requires the discomfort of change. Delaying the steps you know you're supposed to take doesn't protect you. It prolongs your pain. It stretches the gap between who you are and who you were made to be. It's easy to say, "I'm just praying about it," or "I'm waiting for confirmation," but often those words are just a way to avoid action. Faith doesn't wait forever. Faith moves. Faith believes that when the inner conviction is clear, the next step should follow, even if the full plan hasn't been revealed. Delaying what you've been called to do won't make the path easier. It just deepens the frustration and breeds more confusion. The longer you hesitate, the heavier the burden becomes. The voice inside that once whispered gently begins to shout with urgency, and eventually, if ignored long enough, it grows quiet. Not because it's gone, but because you've trained yourself to stop listening. Comfort zones are silent prisons. They keep your life predictable, but they also keep your soul small. They feed the illusion that safety is the goal, but in doing so, they rob you of the adventure, the meaning, and the impact you were designed to experience. Every major breakthrough in your life will require you to step beyond what's familiar. It will ask something of you, your time, your energy, your vulnerability. It will ask you to let go of your need for control and embrace the unknown. But in that unknown is where transformation lives. It's where your strength is forged. It's where your true capacity is revealed. No more excuses. No more procrastination dressed up as planning. The truth is, you already know what needs to change. You already sense what you're supposed to start, end, or face. What's missing isn't knowledge, it's action, and that action will always cost you something. But the cost of obedience is nothing compared to the cost of regret. At some point, you must decide that comfort is not worth your calling. Delay is not worth your destiny. Playing it safe is not worth the purpose you were created to fulfill. What you're avoiding today may be the very breakthrough you've been praying for. A personal shift is not something that happens outside of you first. It begins in the unseen, quiet places of your own heart and mind. It doesn't require the world to change before you do. In fact, the most powerful and lasting changes are those that start deep within, long before anyone else notices. A shift from within is the moment when you begin to think differently, see differently, and respond differently to the same situations that once overwhelmed you. It is the inner transformation that sparks outward movement. It's not caused by new circumstances, but by a new level of awareness. When that awareness takes root, your entire life begins to shift direction. That shift might be hard to explain to others, but you can feel it. You can sense something is changing in the way you view your calling, your identity, your priorities, and your future. Often, before anything visible takes place, before the breakthrough, the opportunity, the open door, something invisible is happening inside you. You begin to feel the pull to step away from old patterns, old excuses, and old versions of yourself. The things that once satisfied no longer do. The distractions that once kept you busy now feel shallow. The conversations, habits, or environments that used to be comfortable suddenly feel heavy. This is not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. It's the beginning of a shift that's shaping you for what's next. It is the divine preparation that must happen before elevation. No true and lasting change happens outside of you until a decision is made within you. And that decision is often birthed in quiet moments, moments of restlessness, conviction, reflection, and prayer. You may not even be able to put your finger on it at first. You just know that you're not who you were, and you're not yet who you're becoming. That in-between space can feel uncomfortable, even confusing, but it is sacred. It is the place where growth is happening even when results aren't visible. It's where you begin letting go of the need to be understood by others because you're finally beginning to understand yourself. You no longer chase validation or applause because you're learning to live from a place of deeper truth. This shift is less about doing more and more about becoming aligned with your purpose, with God's direction, and with a new level of intentionality. When the shift comes from within, your external life begins to respond accordingly. You make better decisions not out of fear or pressure, but from a place of clarity. You start creating boundaries where you used to tolerate chaos. You invest in relationships that feed your growth instead of drain your energy. You wake up with a sense of purpose rather than dread. You stop trying to force things and start learning how to flow with the timing and wisdom of the process. This kind of shift doesn't need to be loud to be real. Sometimes it's just a new piece in the middle of the same storm. Other times, it's a new confidence to take a step you used to avoid. The most important part of this shift is that it's personal. No one else can do it for you. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about responding to what you already know deep down, that something must change, and that change begins with you. You can't wait for others to validate the shift. You can't wait for everything around you to align perfectly before you move. You have to honor what's happening inside of you, even if it's not fully formed yet, even if it feels unfamiliar, because that inner shift is the foundation upon which everything new will be built. It is the quiet revolution that prepares you for the visible transformation the world will eventually see. There comes a point in every journey where the version of yourself that brought you this far cannot take you any further. Growth demands release, purpose demands transformation, and transformation always begins with a choice to leave behind the old you. This is not about shame or regret for who you have been. It's about recognizing that clinging to old mindsets, habits, and limitations will keep you stuck in cycles you were meant to break. The old you is familiar, safe, predictable, but it's also the reason you haven't stepped fully into the life you were created for. The old you knows survival, but not breakthrough. The old you settles for comfort when you're called to courage. And as long as you try to hold on to both the old and the new, you will be torn between what is and what could be. Leaving behind the old you means surrendering the stories you've told yourself about what you can't do, won't become, or don't deserve. It means letting go of the identity shaped by fear, failure, comparison, or the opinions of others. You are not your past mistakes. You are not the sum of your lowest moments. You are not the limited vision of someone else's doubt. But if you continue to live according to those labels and limitations, you'll keep manifesting the same results, the same patterns, the same disappointments. The truth is, there is a version of you that is waiting to emerge, but it can't rise while you're still protecting the version that's holding you back. Letting go of the old you often requires difficult decisions. It may mean walking away from toxic relationships that reinforce old patterns. It may mean giving up excuses that have become your safety net. It may mean facing fears that you've avoided for years. But every step away from the old is also a step towards something better. The process may feel uncomfortable, even painful at times, because you're shedding layers that no longer fit. But discomfort is a sign that you're moving. It's a sign that you're not stuck anymore. And if you're willing to endure the discomfort of growth, you'll discover strength, clarity, and power that you didn't know you had. Many people want the results of transformation without the process. They want new outcomes without changing old inputs. But change doesn't work that way. You can't pour new wine into old wineskins. You can't carry a new mission with an old mindset. You can't build a new future on a foundation of broken beliefs. You have to renew your thinking, align your behavior, and make space for what's next. That means saying no to the things that once felt normal but are no longer necessary. It means being honest about what needs to change, not someday, but now. Because every day you live as the old you is another day you delay the life meant for the new you. The old you may have been shaped by pain, but the new you is defined by purpose. The old you may have needed approval, but the new you is rooted in identity. The old you may have feared failure, but the new you is willing to risk for something greater. This isn't about becoming someone different. It's about becoming more of who you truly are. The real you is not hidden in the past. It's waiting in your future, calling you to rise, to move, to evolve. And the moment you decide that you're done replaying the same chapter, you open the door to a story that's still being written, one where your faith is bigger than your fear, your hope is stronger than your history, and your vision is clearer than your doubt. That kind of life can't begin until the old you steps aside and makes room for who you were always meant to be. There are moments in life that carry more weight than others, moments that seem to stand still, that echo louder in your spirit, that pull on your heart with an urgency you can't explain. This is one of those moments. It is not just another ordinary space in time. It is a divine invitation, an invitation not sent through physical mail or announced with grand ceremony, but quietly delivered into your soul. It's a whisper that says, "This is the time," a sense deep inside you that now is not a coincidence, now is not random, now is sacred, because something is being offered to you, an opportunity to step forward, to align, to awaken. This divine invitation is not about religion or ritual. It's about relationship, alignment, and destiny. It is the Creator's call to His creation to rise up and walk into purpose. It doesn't require perfection or performance. It requires response. So many people wait for signs, for doors to open, for life to become less complicated before they move. But divine invitations rarely come in ideal circumstances. They show up in the middle of the mess, in the quiet frustration, in the tension between what is and what could be. And when they do, they are not meant to be admired or analyzed. They are meant to be accepted. The reason this moment matters so much is because it is the threshold between delay and destiny. You have been praying for clarity, longing for breakthrough, asking for confirmation, and now the moment arrives, not wrapped in glitter or flashing lights, but wrapped in truth. It looks like a thought that won't leave your mind. It feels like a restlessness in your heart that you can't shake. It sounds like conviction, like calling, like purpose knocking on the door of your comfort zone. That is not emotion, it is invitation, and you get to choose what you do with it. Every divine invitation demands a response, not a passive agreement, but a courageous decision. You can't casually step into your calling. You have to recognize the invitation for what it is, a turning point, a crossroads where the life you've known collides with the life you were created for. It's a call to let go of the excuses that have held you hostage. It's a call to stop waiting for permission and start walking in power. This moment is not asking for your credentials, your confidence, or your qualifications. It's asking for your yes, your willingness to trust that what's ahead is worth whatever it costs to leave behind what's behind. There is something sacred about a moment when heaven intersects with your timeline. You don't choose when it comes, but you do choose whether you respond. You may never feel ready. You may not know how the story ends. But the invitation isn't about guarantees, it's about faith. Faith that what's stirring inside you isn't a mistake. Faith that what you sense is real. Faith that what's calling you forward will also carry you through. You're not being called to figure everything out. You're being called to take the next step. You've waited long enough. You've wondered long enough. And now the invitation is here. It's not asking you to move out of pressure. It's asking you to move with purpose. You weren't created to live in circles. You weren't designed to merely survive. You were chosen to step into this specific moment in time, not because you have it all together, but because you're finally ready to become who you were always meant to be. Divine invitations don't come every day, and when they do, they carry with them the power to shift everything, if you have the courage to respond.